All right. We're going to call the September 5th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting to order. We'll take roll call. Commissioner Lind. Here. Commissioner Hargreaves.
Here.
And Commissioner Brummond is here. Absent is Commissioner Kozicki and Commissioner Yang. I'd like to invite anyone who would like to stand up and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And with that, we are going to see if staff has any amendments that they want to make to the agenda. We had contemplated one, but I don't see the applicant. So I think at this point in time, we'll just leave the agenda as it's set for tonight unless anyone else has an amendment they'd like to propose.
Correct, Madam Chair, staff does not have any amendments at this time.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Can I get a motion?
I'll second, or I'll make the motion.
Perfect. And I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, and at this point in time, what we're going to do next is open the floor for open forum. Open forum is an opportunity to be heard, not debate, any issue that is not on tonight's agenda. Those who are not recognized by the chair should refrain from commenting, interrupting a speaker at the podium, conducting conversations with other members of the audience, or just creating a disruption or distraction. This will be enforced throughout the meeting. So those who do not abide by the rules of decorum will be asked to leave, and we want everyone to participate. So that's just why we review that. Comments tonight are limited to in-person participants. Speakers are requested to fill out a card before the start of the meeting. For Natalie to call you up to the podium, I don't believe we have any cards for open forum. However, we would, if anyone has something that they want to talk about that's not on the agenda, let us know. Otherwise, we will move from open forum into last meeting's minutes. So I don't see anyone making the podium, so we'll just make that move. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding the meeting minutes from the August 1st Planning Commission meeting?
It all checked out. I'll make a motion to approve.
And I will second that motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? I don't think I need to say that if we're all saying aye. Okay, so then we're going to move on to the new business for tonight, and both items are an opportunity for public comment. So we'll just review again that public comments are going to be limited to in-person comments. And if you have the opportunity to fill out a card prior to the start of the meeting, that'd be great. But if not, we will still allow you to approach the podium. Just state your name and address, and then proceed with any questions. What we usually do is we'll take all of the questions, and then once the public comment opportunity is done, that's when we'll answer the questions, either from staff or the applicant. So tonight's first public hearing item is the Domino site plan, the conditional use permit, and the variance, which is city file 24-018. And I think we'll start with the staff report from Dwight, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
Right?
that's correct. Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the first item tonight is for the Domino's application. Just a quick overview of the request itself. The applicant is requesting approval of a site plan and conditional use permit to develop and operate a drive-through / walkout only Domino's pizza restaurant. And due to some site constraints, the applicant is also requesting a variance approval from the minimum building and parking setbacks, the drive-through lane location, sign standards, and the minimum parking dimensions. So a background on the site itself, the site is located on the corner of County Road 50 and County Road 10, more specifically 20115 and 20121 County Road 10, formerly the 1050 Club and the Corcoran Meat Locker. Part of the application also included a lot consolidation to combine the two lots together. A lot consolidation of this type can be approved administratively, so that will not be part of tonight's discussion. Some context on the site. The site is zoned neighborhood commercial or C1, and that's marked as orange on the map to the right there. And the surrounding properties to the north, east, and south are also zoned neighborhood commercial. And then the property to the west is the city park, which is zoned public/institutional. The natural characteristics of the site, there are no significant features that were identified within the 2040 comprehensive plan. And portions of both parcels are located within the shoreline overlay district for the zoning districts. Before we get into the actual analysis of the application, just a quick overview of the city's discretion in reviewing these applications. A site plan and conditional use permit, if the proposal complies with the zoning ordinance, then the city must approve both the site plan and conditional use permit. But the city does have a bit more discretion as far as the variance goes. This is because the applicant has the burden of proof, or has to provide the burden of proof and demonstrate that the hardships for the variance have been met in order for the city to approve that. So going into the actual analysis itself, the proposed, starting with the area requirements in the C1 district, the proposed conditions of the site do comply with most of these area requirements, with the exception of the setback from the front major roadways. The applicant is requesting approval of variance for this, and I'll touch on that a little bit more later on in the staff report. The building architecture itself is a little unique because it's kind of an express dominoes, which means that there is no customer entry to the building. It's purely through a drive-through or a walk-up window. The building materials include the coal-colored stone, pre-finished lap siding, metal accents around the pickup windows, black fiber siding, and vinyl siding. All of these materials do comply with the zoning ordinance. With just a quick note on the metal accents, the code does allow for those to be on the building, so long as they don't exceed 20% of the wall coverage, and both are on all sides. It does not exceed that 20%, so that complies with the zoning standards. The parking and drive aisle for a restaurant of this size requires at least 8 parking stalls, and the applicant is showing 13 parking stalls. So that meets the minimum standards. And the majority of these parking stalls are angled at 60 degrees, which come with a very specific set of dimensions that the plans provided do not comply with. So that's also going to be part of the variance request that'll be discussed later on as well. As far as access to the site, there is a single access point on County Road 50. It was pointed out earlier today that there was a typo within the staff report that said County Road 10, but that was supposed to be County Road 50. The access is only on County Road 50, and there's no access from 10. This would remove the 2 existing access points on County Road 10 and County Road 50, as well as removing some of the on-street parking on County Road 10 in favor of off-street parking. The lighting itself, the city code requires a maximum glare of 1-foot candle at the property line. The photometric plan provided by the applicant does not comply with this, but a condition of approval has been added to the draft resolution that would require the applicant to revise those plans and just bring that glare down to meet that standard. There's an additional standard for maximum height of freestanding light fixtures, and that the maximum height of that is not to exceed the roof line, which is 20 feet, and have a cutoff angle of 90 degrees or less. The applicant did not specify either of these items, so a condition of approval also requires the applicant to provide more details on that and make sure that it complies with those standards. The landscaping requirements for this site requires a minimum of 15 overstory trees, and the applicant is proposing 18. But no more than 33% of these trees can be of the same species. The applicant's plans do show 4 different species in total, but they don't specify the quantity of each species, so they will need to make sure that they specify those quantities before the council meeting. And as for the understory shrubs, the code requires 25 understory shrubs, and the applicant is showing 31 on the plans. But the species of shrubs that they're showing have a height of 12 to 15 inches, and the required height for shrubs in this area would be 3 to 4 feet. So those will also need to be replaced with a species that meets that height standard. As far as signs go, the applicant has provided 2 options for signs on the site. One that is allowed by code, which is option 1, which is one wall sign that covers no more than 10% of the primary building face, and 1 freestanding sign with a maximum height of 16 feet and a maximum sign copy area of 64 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance from these standards, and that would be option 2, which is would be 0 freestanding signs and then 2 44.5 square foot wall signs on both the north and the south side of the building, and then 1 15.76 square feet wall sign on that front east, like the eastern facade facing the intersection there. The second option does not comply with the city code and would require approval of a variance. So as far as the site plan goes, staff finds that with the conditions that have been mentioned throughout the report, the site plan has met the requirements, and staff recommends approval of the site plan. And for the conditional use permit, there are standards found in the zoning ordinance for all conditional use permits, and then there's additional standards found in section 1060.060 for drive-through specifically. And staff has found that all of these standards have been met, and we recommend approval of the conditional use permit as well. So these ones get a little wordy here, but going into the variance requests, the first variance request is to reduce the structural setback from the county roads, which the current requirement is 100 feet from both county roads, and the applicant is requesting a setback of 30 feet and 50 feet, as well as a minimum parking and drive aisle setback of 5 feet. And the code requires 100 feet for both of those as well. During our analysis, staff found that at its widest point, the site itself is 198 feet wide. So this does create a conflict between these 2 setbacks, and it starts to overlap on one another. And staff finds that the variance standards for this have been met, but we just recommend that a condition of approval be that the minimum setbacks must meet what's shown on the plan and can't be reduced less than that. The drive-through lane code requires that drive-throughs, code does not allow drive-throughs to be located on a side of the building that faces a public street, but the uniqueness of this site, the applicant is requesting that they be allowed to install a drive-through along County Road 50 there. And the site is unique in that 2 of its 3 sides do face a public road, and the only side that doesn't face a public road, if you were to place a drive-through there, then it creates a different conflict with the screening standards as vehicle headlights would be shining out onto the road through the access point, and you can't screen it at that spot. So staff finds that the variance standards for this request have also been met, and we just would add that a condition of approval be added that headlights from the drive-through lane be screened from the public right of way. The third variance request is for wall signage. The applicant is requesting additional wall signage in lieu of a freestanding sign. The code itself allows for just a single wall sign and one freestanding sign in the C1 district, but with the shape of the site and its proximity to two county roads, it's difficult to find a suitable location for a freestanding sign that isn't within the site visibility triangle. And staff finds that the variance standards for this have also been met and recommend that a condition of approval be added that future monuments and freestanding signs not be added to the site if this is approved. And then lastly, the minimum parking dimensions for parking stalls that are angled at 60 degrees. The applicant is requesting that the parking stalls have a 9-foot width, a 21-foot line length, and a minimum drive aisle of 13 feet in certain portions of the parking lot. And again, the shape and size of the site make it difficult to comply with these standards while also having the building itself on the site and complying with the minimum number of parking spots. So staff finds that the variance standards for this have also been met with a condition of approval that these dimensions that are shown in the plans aren't modified from what's actually shown in the plans. So staff recommends that at this point you would open the public hearing and take testimony. And we also recommend approval of the draft resolution for the site plan, the conditional use permit, and the variances as presented.
Thank you, Dwight. At this time, no one filled out a comment card, but we'd still like to give you the opportunity after seeing the staff report. If you have questions or comments that you would like to make regarding the Domino's site plan, you're welcome to approach the podium and just state your name and address for the record. So if there's anybody who would like to do that, we'll take those comments or questions first. And we do just ask that you keep it limited to about 5 minutes, just so that we can keep the meeting going this evening.
Okay, I looked directly at this from my townhouse.
Okay, one moment.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. They
Marilyn
just,
Nyquist is my name.
Yeah.
My address is 20139 78th Place.
thank you so much. All right, go ahead.
In addition to the constant motorcycles that go by and the constant trucks that go by, I'm very concerned that when I look out, and even though you have these tall trees, that I'm going to see those lights from those cars constantly in my window, and also the noise of the car. And in the winter, you're gonna be, well, I guess winter doesn't make any difference, lights are lights. And I'm also concerned about the size of the sign on the building. I wish it was smaller. I think it should be on the building rather than a freestanding thing sitting right out on the road. That doesn't seem nice to me, but if we could have a smaller one. Domino's is such a huge thing. I think people would immediately recognize what the sign is. So that's my big concern, is the noise and the lights as all those people, and that will be till at least 1 o'clock on the weekends as well. I was talking to the Domino's gentleman before the meeting. Those are my big concerns. And I know we made all these variances to that lot. It is an interesting lot and it is an eyesore right now. So, but those are my concerns.
Thank you so much. We will make sure that they are addressed. Is there anybody else who had comments or questions that they wanted to make before we hear from the applicant? No. Just remember to state your name and address for the record.
Sure.
Thank you.
Andy Rasmussen, 19235 Bridle Path in Corcoran. I guess just a couple quick questions. If you're reducing the setback required, is there gonna be any kind of screening? I guess I haven't seen the plan, but some kind of, I don't know, hedge or something to kind of screen it off a little bit from the road, or is it, just boom, a building right there?
Oh, go ahead with all your questions, because we will make sure that we address them before we'll have a discussion after this, so we'll make sure we address the
Yeah,
questions.
and then the other one is, I do agree on sign size. I think everybody nowadays, you Google. You don't look around for signs to try to find a business, you just get your phone out and you go, nearest pizza place. But I think being minimized sign, I think it's a little classier for the city as a whole. I just don't think massive signs are needed. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate all of the input. Anyone else? No pressure. We just want to give you the opportunity.
Can I go up and comment on the sign?
I believe we closed the public hearing first, and then we will allow you the opportunity to speak before the discussion. So at this point in time, if everyone has, who wants to has approached the podium, then I will make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You-
I second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now if you would like the opportunity, sir, this is the applicant, and so then he can address some of the questions or concerns that have come up.
Yeah, Eric Sauer of Domino's Pizza. Can we pull up those renderings or the signage real quick? Sure.
Do we know which one?
Yeah, okay, so go to the option 1 first. Okay, yeah, so on option 1, and this is where we're going for a variance on reducing actually the signage. Option 1 only allowed us signage on one side of the building, and then, of course, we wanted to get the maximum of the signage that we could. So that's where it made it this big. And now what we wanted to do is go a variance with the city and get rid of the full sign and basically allow us to reduce the size of the sign on this side and allow us to put it on the other sides too, just to get grand visibility from all 3 sides. So if they'll approve the variance to get rid of the full sign and allow us to use that square footage on it, if you want to go to option 2, it brings it from that big down to that big.
And that is just to clarify the signage that will face County Road 10.
Yes, then that's the one that faces County Road 10. So we're gonna go from big down to smaller to allow us to get signage on 50 as well.
Can we ask questions?
Which the signage on 50 would be the top, and then the signage facing that intersection.
Okay. And
Yeah,
that's
so-
20 feet in the air,
No, the building is 20 feet tall.
so all close.
Okay,
Yeah.
usually we do keep the discussion just to the applicant right now. No, I appreciate it. And then any specific questions that you have that aren't answered after the meeting, you can feel free to email. And we can make sure that you have a chance. And also the renderings and everything are available in the 3-ring binder that's out in the foyer right there. But if there's something specific, it's available online. We can answer those direct questions from Natalie as well. So please feel free to reach out if you have
Yeah, I
specific
just wanted to
questions.
get
Yeah,
clarification
no, I
from the
appreciate
public That we are going from a big one to smaller ones, because I heard your comments about getting rid of the big signs, and that's exactly what we're doing, so.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Is there anything else that you wanted to, I mean, you had a great narrative already in the packet, so if you wanted to address the commission with anything, otherwise, we did get to read both the CUP request as well as the variance request that you submitted, so.
We've had so much back and forth on this. I guess one other question / comment went on the headlights from this lady over here. Are we able to move around trees to maybe help her out as far as maybe condensed trees in her corner if she has those concerns?
I think that we can definitely touch on it in the discussion and we'll see if anything is a possibility. So we'll make sure that we talk about that landscaping. Thank you so much. And we may, if anyone on the discussion or the commission has questions for you, we may circle back as well. Otherwise, at this point in time, what we will do is, go ahead and open it up for any sort of deliberation or questions or comments that the commissioners have, and is there anybody who wants to go first?
Are we able to ask questions to
Yeah,
the applicant
for sure.
during this process?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can,
Oh, I,
or I can sit, however you guys want me to do it. You wanna be formal or informal?
For the minutes, it's best to be.
Okay.
To hear, yeah. The one question that I did have, if you don't mind, is that it wasn't explicitly stated in the packet, but will there be delivery to and like from this location? Cause it just indicated that it was for pickup and takeout. And so that's why I just wanted to clarify, will there be delivery?
Like delivery.
Pizza delivery
Yes,
from this
yeah,
location?
just like
Okay.
every other Domino's.
I didn't wanna assume and it
Yes.
just wasn't,
Yeah. so
it wasn't spelled out,
it's
so.
Pickup through the drive-through pickup window or a walk-up pickup, but then we'll have normal delivery drivers like every other Domino's.
Okay, that was the question I had, but you guys feel free to fire away.
to build on that, will there be Grubhub,
No,
Uber Eats,
no.
third-party
no,
application
we have no
deliveries?
Third party, all of our drivers are in-house.
Perfect. Is,
We
thinking
stand-
about that from a
We
traffic
stood by that
concern.
model from day one, once all those third-party aggregators came out. We do not employ any of them. They're all of our drivers or our team members will be controlling.
Sure. You don't see that changing in the future?
No.
Just from a traffic flow perspective, it adds a lot of vehicles.
No.
Okay. One of the questions,
Actually, I can add on that, so believe it or not, we have expanded into, it's not Uber Eats, one of the third party, but what happens is if you place an order on, and I'm gonna say Uber Eats, but it's not on one of the other apps, our delivery drivers are the ones that actually take that order.
You're just
Not-
using it as a
Yeah.
platform.
We're
Sure.
using it as a platform to gain more orders.
Sure.
Yeah.
perfect, thank you. One of the conditions was to reduce the glare. Now, I don't know enough about this in commercial development, but how do you, does that reduction of glare impact the variance being requested on the lighting? Is that how it's accommodated?
We do have an updated photometrics that has reduced that down to the standard.
So there shouldn't be a variance for lighting. There's a variance to the sign, but I don't think that's what was causing the glare. That was just.
Okay.
Exterior lighting.
Yeah,
So you
that's
just had to
true.
kind of. move
Okay.
Locations to get.
I see.
Basically, we had our.
Perfect.
Lights break.
Gotcha, thank you. Dumb question,
No,
but
it's
No,
not
that-
really dumb.
learning as we go
Yeah.
here, okay. Maybe this is more for staff. So this commercial district, neighborhood commercial, guided commercial. Do we have like design ideals for this area in the future as far as consistent look, feel, walkability, anything in regards to, these businesses being able to be close together? I'm just wondering if there's any sort of vision we have for that.
I can speak to it if I'm not to it, feel free, but, yeah, and this site itself is in the Southeast District. And the Southeast District portion of the zoning ordinance has specific design standards for the downtown core and then the downtown area itself. But the site, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but the site is outside of both of those, so that it only has to comply with just the standard building standards in the zoning ordinance, nothing specific as far as like a uniform look or feel to the Southeast District.
Because it's west of that Southeast
Yes.
District.
Of the downtown
Correct.
area. So
Yep.
it's southeast overall, but there really aren't a lot of architectural standards outside of the downtown core, which is where that mixed use walkable area is envisioned. However, I do believe, if I'm understanding correctly, the evolution of the application, there was an effort to have a walking path between the city park to Domino's.
Yes.
That was the question.
What our plans is our anticipation is that there will be a city or a county sidewalk along 10 there from the ball fields towards us. And so we are planning, or our intentions is to put a sidewalk up to 10 and with the anticipation that there will be a sidewalk to connect to the ball fields eventually.
I think it's super important, because when I read this, I was thinking, okay, I'm a 13-year-old, 12-year-old kid. I asked my parents for probably $30 to buy a pizza nowadays,
Yeah.
to go walk up from the ball field after my game and go get a pizza, and there's cars everywhere and
Right,
it's cement,
that's-
and what am I
that's
doing?
That's where we had future planned ahead, or not even future plan. We're
Yeah.
planning, we see the vision of what's gonna happen with the ball fields and the developing of that area, that I hope that the city is gonna put a sidewalk along 10 there, which then would tie right into our sidewalk that leads to 10.
Is there, I mean, that requires great collaboration, I appreciate that. Is there, I couldn't really tell if there's a sidewalk built into this regardless of if that's developed or not.
Well, no,
Well, along the highway?
no,
Not along the
we
highway.
not along the highway.
It just stops at their property at the top.
Right, it's to the pickup
Right.
window already, but it would stop at the
But it
end
goes
of
up,
their
okay,
site.
I don't know what pack you have, but there's dotted, spots where they can walk from the building, from the ballpark, once they get into the download property.
cool. Just as little kids like to guide them is what I'm thinking about, making it obvious of where they should walk.
Yes, yeah.
Currently, we would do it, build in the time frame. Our sidewalk would end at the property line, then it would have to be picked up by.
Sure,
So,
of course,
yeah.
of course.
Does anybody have more specific questions for the applicant? Otherwise, let's let him take a seat.
I think I do.
You do.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, please.
No, you go ahead.
A question about hours. So is this going to go late night?
Midnight on Sunday through Thursday would be midnight, and then Friday and Saturday, 1 AM.
Okay. I think that's the last question I had. For the applicant.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have questions
I
specifically
have
for the
questions for both
applicant?
the applicant and the city.
Let's start with the ones for the applicant and then we can let him take a seat and then we'll
For
go.
linear.
Oh, they're linear. All right, go for it.
First of all, what is, this is for staff, what is the dimension for the drive-in from that point to the corner? What is the minimum requirement required by the city? Where you have the ingress, egress for cars to the corner?
I think he's asking for stacking.
No, I'm, when you're out on whatever
Talking about
high,
the access on County Road 50.
yeah, what is the distance?
So we don't have any ability to make that call because it's a county road. So
Okay.
the location shown is what the county has pre-approved.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. And when it comes to building, materials, in that last two sentences, it says, and vinyl siding around the cooler. Is vinyl siding allowed by the city?
Vinyl siding can be allowed by the zoning administrator, and we didn't see a problem with it, so. we-
Yeah, because it's not mentioned,
Sure,
so.
yeah,
So it is, you guys are okay with it then?
It's currently proposed. If there's an issue with it, that could certainly be part of the planning commission discussion, but the the zoning administrator, which is me, has the ability to approve it.
Okay,
We're just trying to conceal the cooler a little better.
so when it, okay, that's fine.
But I would like to just, we do have, not so much with the CUP, but with the variances, right? So if you wanted to have that as a part of our discussion, that is a material you would like to see changed, I would just say come back to that during the discussion portion if that's something that is a little like thorn in your shoe. Okay.
It's not a big deal, but I just wanted to ask. With respect to the lighting, are we going to allow 30-foot tall light fixtures, or are they 20-foot tall?
so the maximum that they could be is either 30 feet or to the roof line, whichever is less, and the roof line is only 20 feet, so the maximum they could go. is
So it will
20.
be 20 feet.
Yeah, well, I don't know how tall they're actually planning, but yeah.
Actually, the updated photometrics, I believe, shows at 18 and a half or 19. It's below 20.
Okay. Oh, on page 9. Under item C. There's a misspelling, it says non, including but not limited.
Thank you for that, and I'll make sure that's addressed in the, with the other typo.
Came across it. the stacking, do you ever see the stacking getting more than what's allowed, or
No.
what you're currently showing?
We currently operate, I'd say probably about 30 to 40 of our restaurants that have pickup windows. The maximum we ever see even during a peak supper rush of, 5 to 6 or 5 to 7 o'clock is 3 cars in that pickup lane. Because it's not an ordering kiosk, it's not like you pull up to
Right.
a talk box, you have to order ahead of time. So we've trained our team members that if somebody does pull up to the window and their food isn't ready, we ask them to go and park in the parking lot, and then we'll bring it out to them, because we don't wanna stop the flow of traffic. We want that traffic to basically keep going all day, as fast as possible, because that makes business run better. The quicker the better.
Okay. And I do like the comments about signage, and I do appreciate what you showed, because I did notice that as I was looking at the plans, that it did get smaller.
Yeah, and that was kind of the whole purpose of it is, the basic ordinance says, okay, only one side or one sign on the front of your building, which said you're allowed X amount of signage, but then if we got rid of that whole sign, we could use that square footage on the building on all 3 sides, which then would reduce everything down. And I think it gives it a more tasteful look.
Yeah, I think the option 2 would be my
Yeah.
desired option. And that's it.
Feel free to, do you have another
I do,
specific
I
question?
do, I'm
Okay,
sorry. Would there be consideration of this grassy patch, like adding sorry, they're in the
the one
image,
that's
there's
right
a
at the
grassy,
triangular section.
yeah, the
that
triangular
comes towards them.
grassy patch in the middle.
You mean the portion right where 10 and 50 are Ying, is that correct?
No,
No,
Oh,
right in front of the building, north of the building, there's a triangular piece of
yes,
something.
I can track.
Yep. I see.
North of the building,
Oh, in the,
crosswalk,
Yes,
Yeah, in
Yep.
between the crosswalks.
kind of looks like a
yes,
golf flag.
yep.
Okay.
putting a picnic table.
I'm game.
I mean, people are gonna be,
Yeah.
this is a community area for us, so people to be able to take their pizza and eat it before it
So
gets
then
cold.
That would be more question for the staff, is that green space required by you guys?
I think if you were to change that to an impervious surface, I don't believe that would tip the impervious surface limit for the
Okay.
site.
We'd have to look at it 'cause
but I have
of
to-
Charlotte.
Yeah, we'd have to look into it further.
To be honest, little areas of green space like that is maintenance in my life.
Yep.
If you guys are okay with us making it a concrete patio with picnic tables, I'm all for that, because that means less maintenance.
I don't know, I'm just thinking about,
Yeah,
you know,
I get it,
people
because-
coming from the park, they
Yep.
don't have a car.
Yep.
They're trying to eat pizza before in between games.
I
Where do they
100%
sit? And they're gonna be on the road, you know?
100% agree, so if we're allowed to make that a concrete patio with tables, I'm totally on board with that.
I don't know, something to explore.
Yeah.
Crap, what was my last one?
Well, and we can continue to have discussion, just a reminder for commission that this is just to ask the applicant specific questions, so then we can let him sit down and then we can begin to have any discussions between us and staff.
Okay, last
Well,
one.
it's also just, okay,
Sorry. I
no, go ahead.
Promise, it's my last one. The variance for the parking stalls. Minimum of 8, you're proposing 13. Does reducing that number help you to meet the requirements?
I don't believe
I
it's
would-
going to
I don't think
address
it's
the
going to.
drive aisle or the length of the
Right.
stalls proposed.
The only thing it would potentially address is the width,
The width,
which is
yeah.
like,
It only addresses the-
right, which is like 1.33.
And to be fair, we confirmed that the dimensions they're showing are still, would still allow for a functional parking lot, and they do. The city standards are above and beyond what is typically required, not by a lot, but by a little bit, so we do a little bit of room to allow for some smaller stalls and still we have plenty of space to allow for parking.
Thank you.
Thanks, you can take, yeah, awesome, thank you so much. Okay, why don't we start with parking? Okay, well, first we can take it in chunks, because there are two things that we need to make a recommendation on tonight, and the first is the approval or denial of the CUP and the site plan to allow the development of the Domino's drive-through. The second is to address all of the variances that are being requested. So again, the conditional use permit, just as a reminder, because it's helpful for me, is there only so, it's not because it's not an allowed use in the commercial district, it's so that we can have different standards if we are allowing, like, if with a CUP, we can hold the applicant to different standards. So the request for a CUP doesn't mean that it's not drive-throughs or this type of business aren't allowed in that area. That's, I just wanted to review that because that's always helpful for me. It's just so that we can maintain different standards. So does anyone have anything specifically related to the conditional use permit or the site plan about just allowing Domino's to go there that we need to discuss prior to approval or denial of it? Otherwise, I say, let's tackle that issue first.
I'm fine with it.
You know, I think it's personal opinion too. I think a lot of people would hope for like a sitting restaurant in our city, because we don't own one. The one thought I had looking at the site plan was, is there any risk of confusing the drive-through traffic with traffic going on the other county road?
Sure. I think for me, I would have loved to have seen the county authorize a roundabout before this went in, because I think because I even just think about when your supplies are being delivered and you have the big trucks coming through. Yeah, I appreciate that the drive access is on County Road 50 rather than 10, because County Road 50 has the stop sign. Both of the county roads are at a speed limit of 30 at this point in time, but I don't know that, anyway. So, but yes, traffic for me is basic, it's my largest concern, just because I think you've got M&I housing development on 10, but if they are gonna come here and not walk, they're gonna now be making all these right-hand turns from 10 on to 50. And it's certainly not superbly busy, but like right now on the way to the meeting, there's like a steady flow of traffic on 10. That's the direction I come. And so when you couple that with sort of like, you know, these ball games or cricket, because cricket is a huge draw right now in the city park. And so when you couple that with sort of all that time, it is the traffic. Now, I don't think that's the applicant's issue by any means. I just really wish that there would have been something proactively done to solve that why prior to developing out the site. So I don't think that the drive aisle or access will be confused. I think it's going to be pretty distinct that it's not the road, and that you'll have to make a turn in. So I would say that, you know, I do think it's going to impact traffic in the area, but I do think it was harried to get into the butcher shop before too, and try to pull out. My concern is I drive a big truck. So do a lot of people out here. And so my concern with the parking and sort of navigating that is, was wondering the variance for some of the parking stalls, is that going to be enough? Also, I was just trying to think turning radius and, you know, maybe I'll just use a pickup window. But that was some of my concern with some of the reduction. I think eventually there's going to be something done to the intersection. So not putting a freestanding sign in that corner makes sense. Why put something up only to have it eventually need to be taken down anyway? So I am in favor of the signage variance. I'm hesitant about the parking variance. I have the same thought that if we just reduced the total number of parking stalls overall, couldn't you make them a little wider? But if we're above and beyond at 10.3 and you're sure that those big Yukons and the Ford Dualies and the you know, the expeditions or whatever can get in the parking spots, then I'm gonna take your experience and word for it, I guess.
Madam Chair, if it helps, the width of a Yukon is about 6.75 feet. So it's a 9
That
foot
is
width,
helpful.
So would have plenty of room on both sides.
Okay, thank you.
If that does help.
It does help, yeah.
It does, because when I drive,
Doors and kids and.
I go to Hy-Vee, I'm parking at the back of the parking lot and I'm walking because I don't like to try to mess with, the turning radius is not tight on
And
big.
it is one way too, so I
It
think
is,
that
you're right.
also helps with, reducing conflicts with the reduced sizes.
Right, so, and I know that this is, cause remind me, the access to the industrial park that is farther down 50, the access to 50 is not going to be a part, I know it's not a part of it initially, but eventually it will be, right?
I'm so sorry, so the access.
So the the Corcoran Farms
Oh,
Industrial Park only has access through Larkin right now, but eventually it will have an access point onto 50.
It would, so if that site were to develop, similar to what was proposed, the access to 50, it would actually be further down.
West.
So that was part of the discussion when we spoke with the county, in addition to the potential for there to be a future roundabout.
Yep.
And so the applicant was intentional with their design to
Yep.
leave that triangle alone.
Because that would be all they'd have to take
Yeah.
or get into for you.
I designed this property.
Yep.
With the anticipation of a roundabout.
Okay,
Nice.
All of that was considered, that there's this other access points, we don't wanna, cause originally the applicant came in with 2 accesses on 50. And there's gonna be too much in a row, so the county
okay,
approved 1, the applicant revised their plans, we were really good sports about it,
okay,
and still making it a workable site, so.
okay. Okay. Do you guys have, because at this point in time, I don't, this is the application that we have before us. I hear what you're saying. And so with that in mind, I would be in favor of approving or recommending approval of the conditional use permit and the site plan. So I'm willing to make a motion regarding that piece at this point in time.
I would second it.
With the proposed condition.
We'll get into the variance.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is for.
No, it's okay. I was
yes,
just doing them separately. I don't know that we have to do them separately, but,
You don't
okay,
have to, but you certainly can.
okay. Well, since we started down that road, let's just do them.
Makes sense to me.
So all those in favor of approving the condition or recommending approval of conditional use permit and the site plan, say aye. Aye. Okay, so then we can talk about the variances, which is the variants are for the signage, the parking, and we can, in this discussion, if we could touch on some of the landscaping and the question of whether or not we can move trees, I think that would be helpful. If you'd like to talk about the vinyl siding, here would be where we could make any sort of recommendations for additions or changes to, am I correct? To the variances.
I'll just add, you wanna make sure that conditions for the variance,
Are
are related to the variance you're granting, so the conditions should mitigate the impact of granting the variance. So for example, you don't wanna say, I can't even think of an example, a great example right now, but you wanna make sure that there's a nexus between what you're
Perfect.
attaching to.
So regarding the landscaping or the moving of trees, that would be related to the setback. The building setbacks that are being approved because of the site constraints. Because right now it's 100 feet, they can get
Yep.
50 feet with increased landscaping, but there isn't room for increased landscaping. So I think if we want to take a look at the landscaping plans, and if staff has any thoughts or feelings on moving trees to clump together, can I just also ask, isn't this site a lower grade? The elevation is lower on this site than it is in the M&I development, is it not?
Believe so.
So just to help with some of that is that the drive aisle will be lower than the elevation of the homes across the street.
Correct, and then, the other thing I'll add is part of the condition that Dwight called out in terms of the shrubs need to be a certain height
Yep.
is to help screen
Screen.
headlights from vehicles. And like they are showing a few trees, they can certainly, I don't think staff would be opposed to adding some trees. I think I think really to screen lights, you really need something around 3 to 4 feet though. So really you need shrubs and you need to ensure that those shrubs are gonna reach that height at, meet our minimum height requirements at planning and reach that height at maturity.
So if we look at the building plans, which I know you don't have the ability to show up there, but I'm on the page and it looks like C, okay, towards the northeast part of the development, there are 3 deciduous trees that are marked C. Does anybody else, do you guys see that?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
so, because that currently will face, if you go back to the map that had the, zoning around the area, I don't know if you're able to do that. But right now, these trees are facing the rest of what is zoned as commercial, and farther back where there are just smaller landscapes, that's where yeah, so, oh, almost the whole property line faces what will be
Eventually commercial.
commercial.
So yeah,
Okay.
so there's some, I believe there's some non-conforming houses across the street right now.
Yes,
And should those redevelop,
they
it
would
would
be,
have to be under commercial standards.
sure,
The M&I homes.
start farther
Development is
back.
further west, a little bit more across directly from the city park.
Okay,
could I ask a question? Where does
Absolutely.
condominium be in respect to this plan right there? What you're talking, where do you live? with respect to
starting
that?
in the green area,
Okay.
that's the
Green
M&I,
area.
development that begins.
I'm speaking for like 8, 9, 10, 12 of us.
That go around the
right
curve.
along there, right directly, looking at our property.
So a thought I had, ultimately what you're saying is by that point in time, the drive aisle, like if anything is there, they're going to be done, so they're going to be coming through. Facing that side, because the stacking is going to happen on the south end of the triangle. So right at the front of the property, you've just got 3 trees that are stacked there. If we wanted to group them towards the back, closer to the park, and move shrubs there, that is a thought. Because then the trees would grow taller and potentially provide some screening of the building from the M&I development. Do you know what I'm saying? You
Yeah,
guys see
maybe,
that?
I mean, you could possibly, ideas, repurpose the trees that are in the, what I calling the grassy triangle to over there, if we're creating a little patio sit-down spot. Cause I see trees are in there.
So I want to point out the sidewalk there, the walking trail they have, so we want to make sure that the trees
Yep.
don't conflict with that.
No, it's just putting it in that B area. Right now, there's like an area labeled B, and so it would just be saying like,
Yeah.
right now they have right on that corner, there's a coniferous tree. If we moved, like a deciduous tree or something else back a little farther, so it's still within a reasonable area where the trees are gonna grow.
So what I'm hearing is it would be a condition of approval for the setback variance that some additional trees be added along County Road 50.
Or
Or-
just shifted back, no, 10.
I'm sorry. County
Yep,
Road 10.
it's okay, just shifted back, because I heard what you were saying, is there a way to move any of the trees? I think there don't need to necessarily be more, but you have 3 that are sort of, and you guys have some great,
You're talking the, like, the ones that see.
yep, the 3 that are just linear right there,
We move them more northwest.
right, like if you just moved them back a little bit,
Towards.
right. They're a higher elevation than you, so in that case, the trees would grow higher and serve as a better blocking or screening mechanism, and then whatever was where those trees are, the shrubbery or the plants could just come forward.
Yeah, just move stuff around.
Right.
I would be careful of deleting anything. If everything is queuing and pointing to the east, I would be hesitant to take any of that landscaping away from the east side.
And that wasn't the plan, so the.
I understand that they're talking about those 3 trees, moving them up, and that's fine, but I'm just saying, don't leave the stuff that's east, because otherwise you're gonna have headlights pointing.
100%, we want.
For sure.
To have like.
Yeah.
Pointing into that.
Intersection,
line.
Yep.
Right.
And I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah, no, just, you see what I'm,
Yeah, I know.
That's a thought. and I wanted to, because you had mentioned that after hearing some of the concerns, and that seemed like no additional landscaping is needing. Let's just maybe, move the lower to the ground plantings farther to the east, move some of the trees with the taller screenings to the back. It's a thought,
So we can. Bigger. Perfect.
right?
And are we still talking about, that little triangle that you like so much?
If you would like to,
do you really want to make that cement?
No,
I
was
think
just trying
having
to
the
offer-
vegetation there is fine.
I just want it, I don't want people sitting on the curb eating pizza, and that's what's gonna happen.
Well, they can put a little park, little table underneath those trees and it would
That's
be
fine.
so pleasant.
That's great.
So don't
Fine, too.
delete that stuff.
As long as they're not there at 1 in the morning screaming and yelling.
Yeah, so that was another point, maybe this is for council, is, I don't know if this type of business and like the hours and the drive up only promoting more trash in the park or any type of loitering or mischief late at night, or if that changes anything in regards to the way that the police are monitoring this area, different days, nights, times. I just was curious, this business type is more unique than one that closes at 10 PM for family dinner. So it's a comment for, I don't know if our police department has an opinion or a strategy around it, but it's just a thought.
It was reviewed by public safety and it didn't bring up any concerns that was.
Okay.
Something that they felt strongly about. The discussion was primarily focused on firefighting for the site, and so I believe that's what the public safety memo includes. And so they do have a strategy that they would use for that, so, but the chief, our public safety director did have a chance to review it, and that wasn't something that he had brought up. But we can certainly forward that comment.
I'm just gonna touch on the picnic table. I'm not a super big fan, not because I don't want a picnic, but because I think that it is an opportunity to encourage sticking around, right? And I think the idea is that if someone is coming from the park, take it back to the park. I guess that is my thought on that. But so.
Whatever you guys say.
No, it's fair, everyone.
And hey, we don't get to say, we just make recommendations, so we just want to make sure that we touch on all of the things. Sorry if it seems like we're nitpicking. That there's obviously lots of thoughts and opinions about it, and so.
My only concern is I think having something green is better.
Yeah.
Than not.
Right.
So,
And
and I don't really care about a picnic table.
Sure.
I just want the green. to stay.
Everyone can disregard my picnic table. Jeez. Forget I ever said it.
It's true,
I'm
because
just
there
trying to help
There's
out.
not going to be a lot on the south side because that you'll have that drive access. So it will balance out sort of the impervious surfaces that are on the south. Okay, so for variances, we have talked about signage, and it sounds like everybody is in favor. You didn't touch on that, but are you in favor of the
Completely.
okay, all right, so we touched on that. Is there anything that needs to be said regarding the parking or drive aisle setbacks? No. Okay, and I'm assuming that's what your delivery trucks would use for dropping off to the site as well, is that drive aisle?
Our
Yep.
deliveries are.
Non-business hours.
House, but it is Domino's trucks, Domino's deliveries. We control the deliveries, and on specific sites like this, we tell them that they have to deliver in a straight truck and not a tractor trailer.
Okay. All right, so then does anybody else that they have anything that they want to talk about or touch on? Otherwise,
Materials, can we talk about materials?
let's talk about materials.
Can I ask the applicant where that vinyl siding is going to be used?
There's a cooler, the backside,
Yeah,
the
there's
west side of the building.
an outdoor cooler that's attached to the
See, it's
building.
silver on the drawing.
The far right building right there.
Yeah. How often is that gonna be accessed?
It's access from inside.
Or it is accessed?
Yeah,
from
so this
inside?
is just disguising it from curb view is all we're doing. So you don't have a big silver box looking outside.
And you're not concerned about that getting damaged within the next year or so and really looking like poop?
No, go ahead.
You see them around, I'm gonna use Dairy Queen as an example. It's a freezer on coolers, but if you see them sitting around smaller Dairy Queen grills and stuff like that, that sits outside. Some have them shielded or covered up, but a lot of their coolers slash freezers are sitting outside. And they're made for sitting and taking the sun, the weather and stuff like that. It's an exterior cooler system.
Okay.
Most matters, so we require that they have, they folks.
Yeah, I understand you have, yeah,
Might
yeah.
want their cooler.
But I'm just thinking about it, if the pedestrian traffic more than vehicular traffic. I'm just thinking kids getting a little rambunctious and potentially damaging it. So that's my only concern. But if it gets damaged, I would assume that you would replace it.
Well, you know, and what we have done in other, cities is we've actually, I'm gonna use a very big term here, but essentially wrapped it like you would wrap a car or a vehicle. We've done a vinyl wrap on it, geared basically towards the city itself. We have our graphic designer just make up something that's approved by the city, something that makes it a hometown feel. Prime example, St. Cloud. We have one out in St. Cloud that is on campus at SCSU, and everything around that cooler is geared towards SCSU.
Hmm.
I mean, so we definitely do that too.
Like a mirror.
It's a mural.
Like a mural, yeah.
Yeah.
If that was of interest, it could be a condition of approval for the setback variance, because the building is so close to the road, we want the materials to be unique and something that,
Thank you for making that connection.
Yeah, that would be, yeah, that'd be very cool.
we can make that recommendation.
Okay, so at this point in time, it sounds like our discussion has been thorough. And so I would entertain a motion to recommend approval of the three variance requests for the reduced building and structure setbacks. With the amendment to look into some kind of a vinyl wrap. And then allowing a drive-through to face a public street and flexibility from the wall sign standards and flexibility from the minimum parking lot dimension requirements. The only other thing that was amended was talking about the shuffling of landscape to maybe bring some taller screening to the back. So with those two amendments, I will entertain a motion to approve those variances. Right for second.
I make the motion.
All right, and I will second. And all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you so much. You're welcome to stick around. Otherwise, we're gonna move into the next item on our agenda tonight, which is the SLABA. I'm sorry, Gideon. I'll just gonna say your first name because the SLABA preliminary plat and variance, which is city file 23-029, and we're gonna start with the staff reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Second item, let's get it up there. Okay, there we go. Second item is the SLABA preliminary plat and variance. And so Gideon Slava, as you said, is the applicant, and we request essentially to adjust this shared lot line here on the south portion of the site between two lots, 9945 Ebert Road, and I'm just realizing that you don't have I don't think I'm showing it, sorry. My computer, I got a new computer and it doesn't have this capability, so I'm trying to use it, my planner's computer here from adjacent. Anyways, thank you for your patience. So 9945 Ebert Road is this northern property. And it's kind of a flag lot here. And then we have 9925 Ebert Road, which will be proposed lot 2, the southern area. And we're just gonna move the shared lot line essentially further west to square off both lots. And the request does include the preliminary plat and a variance. And the variance is to create a lot that does not abut or have direct access to an improved private drive. Because once we remove, once you change the lot line here, this northern lot will only have access onto Ebert Road. And we can talk about that a bit further here. So both properties were previously platted as part of Ebert Addition. And as a part of that plat, there were already existing structures. The two existing homes were on a single lot, and they were already placed very close to the road. So the history behind it is that right of way was taken to, as much as they could, to allow for a future S-shaped road. And it was known at that time that there was not going to be enough right of way dedicated to make Ebert Road an improved street, even though it was a public street and public right of way was taken. So it was known back when this was originally platted that, eventually we would have to take right of way from this eastern property, east of Ebert Road, in order to truly improve Ebert Road. But access remains to be, directly on Ebert. There has never been access directly onto Oakdale Drive, even though that's where the frontage previously was. And then, so the preliminary plat, again, will allow for both lots to be squared off, allowing for more usable space for proposed lot 2. And this space currently goes unused by the property owner for lot 1. That's our understanding as staff anyway. Both lots meet all minimum dimensional standards of the rural residential district. And there are areas where setbacks are allowed as legal nonconformity because the structures predate our zoning ordinances, and that there was an additional expansion to the existing house footprint on lot 1 that was granted as a variance. I'm sorry, lot 2 that was granted as a variance in 2022. They weren't requesting to have an additional setback, but there were portions of their front porch that they wanted to wrap around. And so it was technically an expansion of the portion of the structure that was subject to the setback. So it's kind of hard to explain. So there was a little bit of a porch that was grandfathered in, and then they wanted, in that setback, technically couldn't expand further, but the variance allowed them to still abide by that setback that was set, but allow for it to expand southward so they could wrap it around the house. So I hope that better explains it. It's hard to see right here, but it essentially allowed for a bit of a variance right here. Again, the setback didn't increase, it's just the portion of the footprint that didn't comply with the setback that increased. But overall, it still stayed, the porch moved no closer to the road than it was previously. And again, direct access for both lots will continue to be provided on Ebert Road with this plat. The existing well on lot 1 is located within the established drainage and utility easement. We believe that well predates even the first subdivision. It's a little unclear because the well was not included on the survey that was provided as part of Ebert addition. The engineering memo does discuss the well and requires that when the well is replaced, it be removed from the drainage and utility easement. However, removal is not being required at this time. But there will be a condition of approval that a formal encroachment agreement with the city be established. And that will protect the lot 1's rights, as well as have it clearly established that should they ever need to replace the well, it needs to be removed out of the drainage and utility easement. No landscaping or park dedication is required since no new lots are being created. And then drainage and utility easements based on the previous lot lines that will now conflict with the proposed lot lines must be vacated with the final plat. So that'll be part of the final plat application. So again, the variance is from section 945.020 subdivision 1 of our subdivision ordinance, which states that all lots shall abut and have direct access to an improved street or private drive. The proposed plat will remove lot 1's frontage along Oakdale Drive, triggering the need for the variance. Staff believes the application meets the standards and practical difficulty threshold for a variance. The existing location of the structures makes it difficult to obtain and acquire more right-of-way from these particular parcels to allow for Ebert Road to be an improved street. And the locations in relation to Ebert Road are not changing as a result of the plat. A direct driveway onto Oakdale Drive would not be allowed for either lot. It would not meet our engineering or design standards. Access is not changing, nor will there be an increase in traffic or use of Ebert Road as a result of the proposed plat. The variance, it actually may be fairly temporary in nature because if the property to the east of Ebert Road does subdivide in the future, The road would be improved at that time to meet city street standards. The change in lot lines will not be visible to the surrounding area. This is going to be a change that improves their quality of life with no visible impact to the general public. And the variance does not create a conflict with the intent of the zoning ordinance or the comprehensive plan. So with this in mind, staff does not propose any conditions of approval for the variance to be granted, but the planning commission can propose conditions to mitigate the impact of granting the variance. So finally, we should open the public hearing and take testimony. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat and variance with conditions of approval as outlined in the draft resolution. As always, the planning commission can approve the draft resolution without changes. They can make amendments as desired, or they can recommend denial of the draft resolution. If the planning commission recommends denial of the variance, then the commission should also recommend denial of the preliminary plat, because there's no way to accomplish the preliminary plat without the variance.
Thank you. At this point in time, we will open the public hearing. If there's anybody who wants to approach the podium regarding this application, please feel free to do so. Just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Patrick Gillespie. I'm at the 9945 property, 9945 Hebert Road. Can you pull up the first slide? Overhead view of the two properties. This is me. This right here. What we're gonna do is just square this off here. This is a transaction between two neighbors. We like our neighbors a lot. And it is beneficial to both parties and both long term as well. So I mean, the development of these two properties was best accomplished by doing this rather than this present situation. We don't use this at all here. It's not something that it's just not something we've ever used. We have enough property already and to keep track. We don't need this over here. And development wise, this is a much better situation for them. We've never had access to Oakdale. We really don't want to have access to Oakdale. The Hebert Road situation, it's going to be an issue long-term for the city, because actually with this here, you can't see it keeps going up and around. There's a number of houses down here on private road that are going to have that at some point. Even if Hebert Road has to be at some point, it's going to end up being, I'm sure, improved, like it or not. And for people like me, we don't want this out here to be even developed more over here. Thinking about Hebert, that's neither here nor there right now. Right now, Hebert Road is what it is, which is a small road where both of us get out on it. And from a purely practical situation, this allows our neighbors to have a much better situation for them in terms of their development. Allows the two properties to be developed more realistically long-term, and doesn't pose any kind of other problems that might arise from something like this. I don't think any of their neighbors mind one bit. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say other than I think it should be approved, because it's basically two neighbors trying to help each other out.
Thank you. Anybody else who would like that? Sure, thank you.
I'm Gideon Slayball. I'm at 9925 Hebert Road. So not quite 2 years ago, we had a house fire. And it was due to a storm that came through that took power lines down and started the house on fire. And at that time, we were coming off the backside of COVID. And we were before the city council. What we wanted to do at that time was buy this property and build a brand new house and push it farther back. But because of COVID, at that time, they were saying it was going to take 12 months just to go through the county. We don't have 12 months. It would be 2 years before we would get a house built. And so we were forced to basically go back and rebuild what we have. And so now we're coming back and trying to, when we were here 2 years ago, you know, the city council was like, yeah, this all makes sense. And so now we're basically coming back and just trying to square up the lot line. Because the way it is right now, was all this easement that is taken here
you know, it's the idea, I guess, back in the nineties was that they would then go on this side and take it all up here, you know, kind of equaling it out, you know, where it is taken here and then taken up here. But my understanding is nothing can be done here until something is done with this property or they sell it or, you know, whatever the deal is. But the way my lot is right now, it is narrow and it is long. And with all the setbacks that we have, I have a septic mound that is here. If I was to ever in the future, we currently don't have a garage, you know, let's just say I was ever gonna build a garage. Now I'm up against the 10-foot setback. Back here, it's a septic mound. I mean, it's almost, a lot is almost, you can't do anything with it, you know. So by squaring this up, it will give us options in the future if we ever wanna, you know, build like a garage or something like that. You know, we don't have any plans for it at this time, but just for the use of the property, you know, so, anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else? If not, I will, make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so what we'll do at this point in time is, the only question I have is that so the reason for the variance is because it sounds like an ordinance was written that was only pertaining to development. Is that correct?
So our subdivision ordinance.
Yeah, right.
That is a typical requirement that the resulting lots should have either
An approved
direct
drive.
access on a private drive, or if it's a public street, it should be an approved public street. From what I can gather, back during the Ebert edition was created, we either didn't have that standard, or there may have been a variance granted that's just not clearly documented in the file. But regardless, Ebert edition was created, and they could have taken more right of way, but then the existing structure would be even closer to the road than they are today. And so instead it was determined they would take what could eventually turn into an S-shaped road. So I would say the subdivision standard would apply to any kind of a plat, whether it's a 2-lot subdivision. We're just agreeing that there's a pre-existing condition that happened long before they took over the properties. And it really doesn't make sense to require more right of way from them when there's a significant property to the east that if that were to develop, it would be much less impactful to take additional right of way at that time to allow for eventual improvement of the street.
Right, I agree. I was just confused as to why any sort of subdivision, like, I guess, but that can be taken offline, would result in an improved street, like anyway. So that was all. Thank you for addressing that. I don't have any other concerns and I'm prepared to move forward. But if you guys have discussion points or things you'd like to ask, please feel free.
You know, I think you had to go through some hoops to make this happen, so just want to recognize that, but all looks good.
So at this point in time, I think, let's go ahead and make a motion to approve the preliminary plan and the variance for the Slaybaugh addition. I will make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. And no one opposed.
Sorry you had to sit through the whole first one to get
We
to
were
that.
gonna switch.
Yeah.
We were gonna switch it and put you first.
Yeah, we were going to.
But then we started and she didn't wanna, yeah, it didn't make sense, but thank you.
Sorry.
And I think it's delightful to see neighbors, making such decisions together. So thank you for that and good luck.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, then the last thing that we have are anything that staff or council would want to discuss with the commission, or anything the commission has for staff or regarding planning project updates or the city council. I have nothing. Okay, so, and just to reiterate, as we touch on that, the commissioner liaison calendar is still on, but you will note that it says suggested city council meetings. With that being said, Commissioner Kozycki asked if the packets were still being printed, and we clarified that they are not being printed, so you will not get a packet delivered if you choose to adhere to the schedule. So just make sure that you are looking for any necessary information online. Otherwise, feel free to continue to follow the suggested city council, meeting calendar. And if nothing else is on, I will, entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll make that motion to adjourn the meeting.
I will second it.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Being adjourned.